Hello there guys, I've got a video here for you today. This is part 3 of a series of videos that is just to help you get that A star and strive for the best possible grade that you can get in photography. Now, with any A-level subject that's creative, you're normally expected to write some sort of a creative essay. That's normally an illustrated essay, and this video will help you with that. Now, normally, essays can be a little bit of a trifle to write, so hopefully I will insert some images of fun into this video to make the whole process a little bit less painful. The fun that I'm talking about could be something like this.
Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. You're our fiddle-dee-dee.
That was a prime example of fun right there, but obviously not everyone can have as much fun as someone like this. But anyway, enough of that. I'll insert more random periods of fun throughout the rest of this video. In regards to the essay, it's really important that you make the best possible job that you can and don't leave it to the last minute. Throughout this vid, what's the point? The essay is been given and been put into most A-levels to definitely show that you have an advanced understanding in a written or in an articulate form. It's really important that you spend time on this and you don't just leave everything till the last minute. You make sure that you've got a really excellent essay to complement the practical work that you're submitting as well. And this shows in one place your connection and intentions to the artists throughout your entire unit of coursework. When you're writing your essay, you're going to need to decide on a question. You need to bear in mind that with most courses, it's not going to be over 10,000 words, and with many A-levels, it's around the 3,000 word mark. Just check with your centre just to make sure whether you allow the 10% rule either way. That normally applies to most universities and college courses, but it's just always a good idea to check that. Now, the essay explains and rationalises what you do, but you've got to make sure you try and get some drafts in to your teacher before the end so they can give you feedback and give you plenty of things to work on as next steps to improve the quality of your written work. Don't just rely on your lecturer. You might not have the same access to yours or what have you, but at the same time, everybody's got some sort of critical friend that they can pass it on to, get them to read it, and often it's the non-specialists of subjects that will be the most help because they'll be able to pick out things that specialists in the subjects might not often think about. Now, like I said, I will be inserting randomized periods of fun, but now isn't quite the time for that. Back to the next part of this video. One of the things I would recommend doing is following the information that's on this slide here. And if you haven't started this yet, just open up a Word document and just start planning out some questions. Write your first introductory paragraph, which just should explain what you're going to do in the essay. Once you've got over that bit, that really is the worst bit there. It doesn't have to be that scary, and you don't have to make yourself feel like this guy.
Oh, hell no!
The most important thing to remember, really, more so than anything else, is, in the words of Lord Palpatine, you just simply need to really do it. Do it. This next part of the video, I've just given a little bit of a warning, really. This was one of the most hilarious and bad essay starts that I've ever seen in the 11 years that I've been teaching. And I generally start by showing this as an example of really what you shouldn't be doing if you're a normal person or a student. Here's a little copy of the first page of this essay now. This essay, it's just started off all wrong. It's too conversational. It's starting off, if anything, quite pessimistic. Maybe this person wasn't having the best time with the essay. I'm not entirely sure, but don't start off your introduction writing things like this person did. Definitely don't start it off first paragraph by finishing it with a full stop, then finally. It just makes it look like you're desperate to get through it and you're not really getting engaged with it. All of the images in your artist's essay, they should be illustrated. It's an illustrated essay. You need to then use those images and talk about those images and analyze those images to make sure that you show that you're understanding what the artist is doing and how they relate to your work and how they relate to your essay. Please don't write just biographies. Biographies are the absolute devil. No one's interested in what the artist has done, where they went to school, anything like that. We just want to know the exact impact of that artist into your work and what the concepts and ideas are behind them. You won't get any points for telling me when they were born. So, moving on. Hopefully that hasn't sort of disturbed too many of you there. In the most cases, a lot of people will go through the essay, they'll start writing, but they won't check any guides, they won't think about what they're writing, and they'll just keep making mistake after mistake until something like this happens to you.
Oh, fudge. That's broken. Fiddle-dee-dee. That will require a tetanus shot. I'm not going to swear, but I am going to kick this doghouse down!
But what I would say, with that in mind, is don't get yourself to the point where you're becoming sort of like rage fail. Make sure you talk to someone you trust and make sure you think about ways that you can develop your ideas into a successful essay. Now, what do you need to look out for? This slide here just gives you a couple of quick things that you might not have already thought about, and then I'll go into some more essay examples later on. Probably the most important thing is represented by this tune right here and the first sentence. You can't very much well have a video without some sort of unusual foreign music in it, so that's my little foreign music quota right there. The rest of this slide here, this is just showing you the things that you need to think about, and people do all the time. Don't write too much detail about artists that doesn't say anything. Make sure every single bit of information in your work is contributing to your essay. Make a point with what you write. Don't just give random information. The next one, please don't include images in your essay that you're not going to write about. Make sure you put an image in there, you title it, you write about it, you put a bibliography reference in there to help you stay on topic. Don't go off topic. That will lose your marks. You need to think about the types of questions that you're going to put in. That depends on how confident you are as an English specialist and someone who speaks the English language. You need to think, do you want an open question? Do you want it broad? Is it going to be direct or specific? I've just put some examples here on the video that just to show how one student's question can be massively changed depending on what that student wants to do and how that student wants to start the essay. I personally prefer an open question, and then in the first paragraph explain what I'm going to then do in the rest of the essay. But everyone's different, and some people feel that they might need a bit more of a structure or what have you. Essential things to do, like I say, make sure it's illustrated. Look at other students' examples. That's a really key thing. If anyone wants to see some examples, please email me and I will send them over to you and put a link in the video. This first example, which just says watch out for, just watch out for sloppy mistakes. It's really easy to write an excellent essay and then miss something simple out. Normally it's a bibliography reference. Often it's quite easy to miss out titles to images. Put the title in there. If you don't want to put the title in its fullest sense or in its fullest form, why not put it in as a figure reference and write, for instance, like this one here, the image has been titled there in the bottom right of this slide as figure 1. That just means example 1. If you then put in the back of your bibliography what that figure is called, what that image is about, and who the artist relates to, that will help you make more of a concise essay and help you keep on track with your references. Also, it's sometimes a good idea, if you're talking about images and you're analysing them in your essay, why not put the rule of thirds grid over the top? It might be something else that if you do struggle a little bit with writing, that will help to prompt you to write about compositional analysis and how the space is used in that artist or photographer's work. My top tips are there, apart from just my absolute pet hate. Please don't use Comic Sans or Blackadder. Just have some self-respect and don't use it. I don't want to talk about it, but I hate Comic Sans so much. I'm getting emotional about it. I'll insert something emotional now into the video to represent that. Let's just move on past that. Please make sure you write your essay in a set font. It's great if you double space it as well, so whoever's going through your essay will be able to give you feedback in between the lines. And like I say, give your essay to non-specialists to make sure they can give you some really comprehensive feedback. Compare and contrast artist work. Don't just write something about one person and leave it there, and then another person, leave it there, and then another person. You have to, at some point, go through and draw connections between the artists. Don't wait till your conclusion. Have paragraphs after a couple of artist studies where you draw connections between the artists and photographers you study. That's the way to be successful. Don't waffle too much and get to the point. I get a little bit frustrated with wiping out huge amounts of information on essays, and that's just wasting trees, and I'm not about that. This slide here, which has got the question marks in at the start, looks a little bit weird, but this is just showing how you could possibly start off a paragraph linking together two artists' work here. Now, in this case, the most discernible difference between the two for me is depth of field. When you've got a very wide aperture or a very low F number, however you talk about it, and that then gives you different amounts of focuses then and focal points in your image. This person's work was based on the natural world. This was just a little idea to get him started and something that he could incorporate into his essay. At the same time, don't just look for artists that are relevant to your intentional theme. Yes, put them in there, but maybe suggest how else something could be developed. In the case of this slide here, this is showing how elements of the natural world, which is mainly intended to be wildlife, could then be further enhanced by capturing different types of images to do with the people that inhabit the same environment. In this case, this student's work was based on a trip to Tanzania, and that was just showing, mainly meant to be showcasing images of the landscape and animals, but there were some really great shots of people as well that he could get into work and just create a different tangent in his work. This slide here is demonstrating essay structure. This is just a really simplistic way to start off. Most people worry not just about starting the essay off, but also about how to structure the essay. This just shows a little structure possibility here. You can change that as much as you like, but I generally suggest you write the question, you write an introductory paragraph, you then insert your first artist image, and then you write about that image, write about the composition, the intentions, how it links to your work, and crucially, how it links to your essay question or your title. If you then do that for multiple artists, it's then the time that you can then start to analyze and compare other artists in different paragraphs. This next slide just shows a little bit more of a comprehensive version of what I've just previously said about how each paragraph could be structured if you wanted something very formulaic and very rigid to stick to. This slide here, which is called Jack's structure example, this relates back to the natural world images that you will have seen previously just in the vid, all based around those Tanzanian images. It was really crucial that this student thought about how they could introduce their images together, as they had some images that were about star trails, some that were about the natural environment, some were about people, and then obviously of the wildlife and flora and fauna. So it was really crucial that he gets across in his essay exactly what he's doing with the natural world. It's really key and crucial that you make that clear. If you don't really make a point, you won't get the fullest credit for the grade. This slide here, this is showing an example of a past student's essay from one of their pages right near the end of their final essay draft that they gave in. The figure 7 there, just at the top left, just again making sure you get titles in. Even if those titles refer to somewhere in the bibliography, that's absolutely fine. One of the things you can do, which is absolute gold really for me when I see in an essay, is when you use your images and then artist images together in your illustrations of what you're intending to do for your intentions. In this case here, this student was comparing it and contrasting their images with an image of an artist who uses tilt shift and similar distorted compositions to what they were using. Very different in the outcome, but nevertheless a really important thing to make sure that you get in your work. Please make sure that you do this and make sure you do comparisons with yours and the artist's work. It's definitely the way to go. This is another page from the same student's essay, and it just shows again how this student's incorporated their final piece into one of the final paragraphs of their essay. Can't hurt you to do this, even though you have presented this practically in your work. Get it in there to create visual connections to your artists. Even if you put artists in there that weren't crucial to your investigation, but they then also show what you have been doing in terms of your ideas to experiment with. In this case here in the top right, Tim Powala was used as an example of an artist who layers and combines images together, and then the student used that influence to then show how they have then done the same thing within their essay. Moving back to the previous example that was to do with the Jack structure slide and the natural world, this was an absolute real breakthrough of an image for the student. They were really, really pleased with the type of image. And you might not think I am right in saying this, but I thought it was an absolute beast of an image for an A-level. Really, really pleased with this. And if you don't think I'm right, well, what about this guy?
Am I right? Hans. Bobby.
Anyway, enough of that. It's really, really good when we can see images like this that don't just stick to the actual original narrative of your essay, but then they push it even further. This student's work was just supposed to have been a technical representation of a star trail. It wasn't supposed to have everything else happening with it as well. But what happened as they were taking the star trails, because they got to a full frame camera instead of the cropped sensor, they were then able to record much more from the image. That then enabled them then to, once they'd experienced and experimented with settings, to then try and capture other elements of the star trail. Now normally most star trail enthusiasts wouldn't want to get the landscape in. They prefer to get the actual movement of the stars without anything else, but this was making all sorts of messages and all sorts of communications about other narratives in this student's work, about the natural world being stellar, the natural world being atmospherical and meteorological, as well as it being on a more social, personal and intimate level, with the use of that single figure in the tent as like one person being out there alone against the elements, that sort of thing. So it's really, really crucial that they get that in there and they show that emotive analysis in their work. Try and engage with the image. Even if you put a consideration or an opinion into your essay and it's not 100% right, that is your opinion. Put it in there. It helps if you can balance that against what the artist's actual opinion was, or what other critical researchers or analysers of work would say it is, but don't be afraid of putting your own opinions into the work. It's key you do that. This slide here is just showing how you can compare more than one artist, in this case 3 artists, together and link them together through an idea to do with viewpoint. It could be the idea, it could be the viewpoint, the composition, anything, but try and think about ways of linking them together and putting that in the essay. That's more the high order thinking that will get you the grades. This slide here, which shows me on the body of a weasel, this is what I sometimes give to people to make sure that when they are going through, they're just being prompted in the right way. There are other larger research guides that I give to my students, but I've found that these have been the most successful so far. They are slightly more simpler in format and they're almost used a bit more like a checklist, more so than anything else. I hope you have found this video helpful, guys, and if you have any questions or any messages, please let me know through the channel. Thank you, bye. I will set you the essay. I will get the essay. And I will give you feedback. Do it.
Send in the car. Send in the car.